It's time for Compass Check, brought to you by Claret Compass. From alignment to delivery, we help teams succeed together. Hi, and welcome to Compass Check. This week we're talking about decisions, specifically the speed and deliberation required to stay on track. In this week's Claret Shift episode on Thursday, we'll hear from Kristen Toth. And one of the themes she'll be talking about is the intentionality required for decisions and trade-offs to keep the business moving. She talked about making the hard calls to pivot the business fast. For example, standing up a fulfillment center within 9 weeks. It's a great conversation about the discipline required to make the right decision at the right time. But it's not just the executives who have to make key decisions and trade-offs. All teams have to have the same intentionality and discipline. And that's what this Compass Check is about: debating smarter and deciding faster. When it comes to execution, ambition is great, but completion is better. The real discipline is deciding what will we finish, not just start, by a given date. And that requires ruthless honesty. Honesty about what's included, what waits, what trade-offs are we willing to accept. And these decisions can be tough without the right environment. A climate where people can surface opposing views without risk. And a cadence that forces closure before the discussion drifts. Leaders set those conditions, and they support their teams in practicing them and learning them until it becomes muscle memory. Let's consider 2 lenses that capture this duality of speed and deliberation. First, we've got Liz Weissman, the author of Multipliers, specifically the chapter entitled The Debate Maker. Leaders create the climate for the best thinking and then demand disciplined analysis. The second lens is General Stanley McChrystal and Team of Teams, which has a strong bias for speed in decision-making. Decisions lose value when they're too slow. The climate for best thinking, disciplined analysis, and decisions at speed. Put them all together, and you get a rhythm that invites real debate and lands the plane on time. So let's see what this looks like in practice. First off, you have to build in debate and team input on a rhythm that forces closure, not drift. You'll want to think about time boxing the decision based on the level of effort and impact involved. Time boxing will help to remove the drag caused by analysis paralysis. And you want to be very intentional and focused. Frame the viable options and make sure you have somebody advocate for each side of the equation. Also, as you focus, clarify what data matters for the decision today and what data doesn't. What are your assumptions versus facts? Is there anything that would change the team's mind? Second, it's not always on the leader. The team has ownership of the decision as well. McChrystal says to push decisions down to the people who know the most. Provide context and then trust your well-informed teams to act quickly. So give your people the why and the constraints. Be clear on the decision process. Who decides, who's consulted, and what to do when something needs to be escalated. Don't expect perfect certainty. Make the call today and then adjust as needed if the facts change. Third, your job as leader is to cultivate the conditions for good decisions to be made, rather than being a hoarder of decision power. So when you're having a discussion, you go last. Don't put your finger on the scale. Don't make people try to say what they think you want to hear. Lower the social risk. Check the titles at the door. Attack issues, not people. And raise the intellectual rigor. Challenge those assumptions. Ask about data lineage. Give equal airtime to different sides. And close decisively. State the decision, the criteria, who owns the action, and what the follow-up will be to verify that you made the right call. Now, there are many rubrics out there on decision-making. I've got some on my website, a well-worded AI prompt, and you can probably get hundreds more. I won't recommend one without knowing your team's culture or your company culture for that matter. But I can give you this. For robust debate that drives action and decisions, think of the word condor, where C is for context. The first O is for options. N is for naysayer. D is for data. The second O is for outcomes. What's the decision that's been made? And R is for recording it so that it can be published or provided to the team where they can find it. Decisions keep things moving. And one of your first decisions is, do we need to decide this now? If not, park it and move on. I've worked with organizations where people didn't want to say no. So they appeared like they were positive, but they just kept asking question after question, stringing things along. It was death by 1,000 cuts, or death by 1,000 questions. A slow yes often behaves like a hidden no. There's no reason to hide. Be transparent. A conclusive no helps the team to move on. Now, there are times when you might want to wait and you might want to defer the decision. If so, name it. Be very explicit. Explain, what are you waiting for? It could be waiting for a final report or the results from a pilot. Identify who's responsible for getting the information required to make the decision and a date when they will have it. Record it and then move on. You don't want your teams to spin. Now, some might say that we don't have to do things speedily. We have to get it right. Let's be clear. Speed is not recklessness. It's shortening the loop from context to debate to decision to learning. This shortening of the loop is what McChrystal talks about, the shared understanding that empowers execution. But that only works if people can move without waiting for the boss to greenlight every step. Your job as leader is to define the boundaries and the outcomes that matter, and then give your team the room to maneuver. And let's not forget what Liz Weissman says about your job. Your job is to create the safety for the best thinking and to demand rigor in analysis. Safety without rigor is pleasant drift. It doesn't go anywhere. Rigor without safety is brittle, fragile compliance. But safety and rigor together produce resilient decisions that the team can execute. The point isn't to chase speed for its own sake. It's to protect the value of the decision. As I said earlier, a slow yes behaves like a hidden no. The team stalls, opportunities slip, and the customer waits. Putting a little bit more harshly, debates that never end really just show that you're not ready to lead. So, here's your compass check. How will you protect the value of the decision? Where will you force closure this week? What decision gets a time box, the context, the success criteria, and the outcome so that your team can execute and move things forward? Pick one and give it the appropriate respect, clarity, speed, and action. That's today's compass check. Until next time, navigate with purpose, collaborate with trust, and deliver what matters. Do you have a question for us to discuss on our podcasts? Or would you like to be a guest? Visit us at k-compass.com/shift.